Remember, you are in a body, but you are a soul. You are a spirit. You are an energy. You are a creative force moving through the universe. You are an infinite artist. Create yourself. Design.
Welcome to Cosmic Native Conversations. Now here's your host, Mandy Shantyne Lopez.
The powerful law of attraction is at the root of everything that you experience. And the stable, never changing, always accurate premise of this law is that which is unto itself is drawn. That is from The Vortex, The Law of Attraction by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Welcome everyone to Cosmic Native Conversations here on the Dialogue Internet Radio platform. We are back today, as always, with my fabulous, awesome guest, Miguel Valenzuela, who shares creative intel with me. And of course, our producer, Abel Rodriguez. And we're here to throw it down with some more cosmic conversations and really get into the weirdness and the beautiful artistic design of life. So Miguel, how are you doing? Welcome. What's going on with you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much for inviting me once again. I think this is awesome. I really appreciate the conversations that we have. So let's get this ball rolling.
Cool. So how is everyone feeling? Today's May 25th, and I was tripping out because I actually have this, and I'll send it to you guys. I have this cool photo drawing from this local artist that I bought in El Paso, actually maybe like 10 years ago, and I was still living in Florida, and it's hanging up in my hallway, and it's these two faces coming together, and the two twins are sharing an eye, so they're looking through the reality through the same eye. But weirdly, the artist signed it at one corner, and then at the other corner she put a date, which was 5/25, which is today. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Trippy. Yeah. So something very auspicious today for some reason. I have no idea why. But how are you, Miguel? What are you experiencing in the reality up until this point, from the last time we spoke to today, 5/25, which who knows what that means?
So, one of the things that happened yesterday was something that was pretty graphic for me, and I don't know if you guys want to talk about it momentarily, was the shooting of the children. I have kids, and for me, that was a very, very powerful thing that happened. Just, I can only imagine the feeling that these individuals have as far as dropping off your children in the morning and not ever having that opportunity to ever make that connect. But having made that statement about how these people may be feeling, I feel that even though there is this negative aspect to what is happening to these families, we need to figure out ways to help each other in many ways. So one of the things that I think that really helps me is to see the beauty in things. Not that I'm saying that there is beauty in what happened, but the beauty around us. And I wanted to have a conversation about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You bring it up, and I saw that happened. The city in Texas, it starts with the U.
Uvalde.
Help me on this. Okay.
Uvalde.
Okay, cool. So, well, not cool, but this is where it took place. And it is interesting and important that these subjects get brought up, because I completely live in a different reality. I wouldn't know unless someone's talking about it or I see it somewhere on social media, which I'm really not on anyway. So there seems to be, again, this repetitive pattern happening of, an incident of people, in this case now kids, being shot up in schools, the place that you're supposed to feel the most protected in, right? And when you talk about it, it makes me feel so sick to my stomach, the way you say it. Like, imagine dropping off your kid and then not seeing, we can't even fathom what that was like. Do you know what I mean?
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
And the thing is that this is where I want people to start questioning their reality, in the sense that, in many various ways, in the sense different from how they're used to talking about it. Like, oh, let's blame this person, or let's blame this weapon, or let's blame this political circumstance. And I'm like, let's start to look deeper, because these things start to happen too frequently and in the same pattern. So that we need to start to look deeper at what is really happening here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but so okay, you're right on the mark today. Okay, one of the things I wanted to say was you talked about there's a formula, and it's kind of following a pattern and all that. But I got to tell you, I saw something today on Facebook, and I want to read it to you because I think this is the national look that we always get when these types of things happen. I mean, what are we going to forget about Buffalo now because this happened?
Right.
But what I do want to say is you have this thing called a mass shooting, and then it turns into a media extravaganza.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that media extravaganza, you get a lot of thoughts and prayers. And then it heads towards the bottom of the clock where the debate starts, like you were saying, Mandy. And then it goes up to no one actually does anything other than, words are words. And then slowly but surely, it heads back to normal till the next one.
Exactly. And because we're here on Cosmic Native Conversations, you're so right, Abel. I want us to transcend this conversation into what gain? Who gains out of this? Let's start to ask those questions. Who gains what out of this? What is the motive behind? Why do we pay attention to some horrific circumstances, which is this one, and probably ignore others that happen, right? So why is the spotlight on some crazy things, but not on others? Why do celebrities jump on the bandwagon on some crazy situations and not on others? Like so on and so on. And like you say, then there's this media whole conference about it. There's a debate about it. There's all this campaign around it. So we're like, can we start to ask ourselves, what's really going on here? Like, why? And why are you going to target children in an innocent place in elementary school? Is that correct information? This was at an elementary school? Okay.
That was after he shot his grandmother in the face. That was the first victim. And by the way, she lived.
Oh, they found out that she lived?
Well, she's in critical condition, but she didn't. It's amazing.
Yeah, one of the things for me that I feel is most important is trying to understand the individual that created this chaos. And was there something that could have changed prior to the chaos happening? One of the biggest issues I feel is mental health, obviously, which is one thing that a lot of people are talking about right now. But for me, mental health hits very close to home, actually. But one of the things that I always contemplate is, what can we do to better ourselves as individuals in order for us to not get to situations like this? I've been frustrated like everybody has been frustrated, but I don't think that I would ever pick up a weapon and create chaos in the way that this chaos has been created. But if the focus, and this is one of the things that you asked me earlier, what has been going on since we talked? Well, a lot has been going on, but one of the things that we talked about last time, unfortunately the show didn't record, but one of the things that we talked about last time was what my focus is. If I go out, and this is what I stated last time, if I walk out of my home and I focus on flowers and pretty colors and all these beautiful things, then my mind may not have the room to create this chaos in my world. So if my focus is somewhere else, then maybe, and I'm not saying that this is actually what's going to happen, but then maybe there may be an opportunity for other things to not happen. Maybe if we focus on the positive and the pretty and the beautiful and the creative, then we can keep from doing all of these things. And maybe that might have been the issue with this young man.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's like, again, we can blame technology, we can blame, all this stuff. And I mean, and again, the circumstances surrounding it, like we weren't there, so we don't really know the for real story. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
And it makes things worse, by the way.
Yeah,
it makes things worse because that's where you get all the speculation. That's where you get all the, well, I heard, when someone starts with, well, I heard, who knows where they heard from?
Yeah, uncertainty is not a good thing. Absolutely.
It's totally like a game of telephone. And then we have to rely on the mainstream media and social media to give us correct news. We already know they're faulty. Do you know what I mean? So what can we do? You're correct. And what can we do to help in the mental capacity of humans and the psyche to not go to those states of absolute violence and absolute, just very inhumane actions, and we are, well, to add to your point, Miguel, my friend, she works at the behavioral hospital. She's one of the counselors. And she was telling me recently that they totally kind of shifted the wards and they made more room and they added 80 beds for children to be admitted into the psychiatric hospital. Can you imagine that?
I can understand because COVID created this, I think, mental chaos amongst the younger generation. I'm older, so, I kind of already have whatever I mentally, I'm thinking, ways of viewing things, ways to determine things, so on and so forth. But a young person doesn't have that mental stability or capacity to understand at the same level. And I think for me anyways, that's one of the issues that came up when they were talking about the massacre that happened, was that this young man had bought a weapon, I think a couple of weeks ago. And the very first thing that he did 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, but he bought 2 of them.
Yeah, he bought 2 of them. So he bought these in, I guess, in a different frame of mind, thinking that he may do this, he may not do this, whereas somebody else buys a weapon and thinks, I'm going to use it for self-defense, for example, which is completely different.
Right. I think you make a good point, but I think we got to really evaluate this one from the level of mental health. This kid, the first stuff that has been coming out, okay, and I've been following it, is mental health. That there was all kinds of signals on this young man. They even talked to his grandfather, and I've seen it on the net. They talked to the grandfather, who, this is a rural place. This is almost like Las Cruces, where it's got a little bit of city in it and, a little bit of township in it, and the rest is rural. And the grandfather, from the point of view of how I saw him, he was saying, the reporter goes, well, did you know? He says, well, no, I didn't know. I mean, he's a quiet kid, but he, no connection between the grandparents other than the guy had a place to stay and get fed, wow. But as a personality, the line was he wouldn't say much. And then he goes, well, did you ever tell him anything? He goes, well, you know how kids are. Okay, this is really, really interesting. You know how kids are. They think they're right about everything. And I understand that point of view. But, if you went to his Facebook page, the way his friends have already, there's all kinds of articles right now, but if you went to the Facebook page, you would see some, disturbing stuff, that you and me, without knowing the guy, if you saw certain ways he was saying things or putting things in pictures and all that. But his last 3 posts were, I'm going to go shoot my grandmother in the face. The next post was, I shot my... it was posted on his Facebook. Then the second post was, I shot my grandmother in the face. And then the third post was, I'm going to this elementary school to shoot it up. And then
wow.
So my question then, because this is interesting, because you're telling me these things and I'm hearing them for the first time. So my mind is like, okay, like gathering the data and the information. And then, so here's how my critical mind would be like, one, this individual has lost touch with their own kind of consciousness source, like reality, anything, circuitry that we cannot understand. There needs to be serious, mental health admittance there, right? And then the other side of me is saying, but I mean, would somebody would we post our every move in that kind of calculated way? Do you know what I mean? So again, I don't know the person, so I can't make assumptions, but based on the data, my brain is making me think 2 ways. Would someone say this, or is it something that is preconceived or planted or something? Or are they that freaking out of touch with just their human body and existence that they would do that? Do you know what I mean? So there's all these things that we have to think about and consider, and the brain makes us now want to ask all these questions as to why would someone do that? It's I'm going to take it really into a dark level, but we'll end this in a light level. Let me ask you a question, and it's completely non-related, and this is something that I'm very passionate about because it never happened in my life, but I see the residual effects of a lot of adults. And when we think of the notion of pedophiles, how could a pedophile go and violate a child? In my mind, I'm all over the place. I'm like, what the, you know, like that's not human. That's like completely like out of this world, like for lack of a better word, like satanic, but it could be completely that and then some. Do you know what I mean? Immoral, like all these kinds of crazy things. So that's how I view pedophiles. Like, I mean, who cares that I'm saying this on the record, but I would be one to like shoot someone in the face like they're a pedophile. Sorry. Like that's how strongly I feel about eradicating that sickness off of this planet. But so I think of like this situation and it makes my mind think the same way. Like, what? How can you go and like want to shoot your grandma in the face? How could you want to go and kill some kids? Like, again, there's a lot of questions about the human being leaving and the psyche taking over, or some other thing possessing you, or, you know, this is why we're here to kind of like, let's take it to the next level. Like there's too many like WTFs in this whole situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. One of the things that I do personally when I have a situation that, you know, gets a little heavy, if one can use that word, with my children or with other situations, is I try to de-escalate the situation. And one way that I see that I can de-escalate is by kind of moving the thought process from one place to another. For example, if we're having a discussion or a deeper discussion or even an argument about XYZ, then we have to look at ABC. And then we can then come back and talk about XYZ, because we have now taken this kind of heaviness away from what we're discussing at that moment. If I am discussing why they're not doing their homework, for example, my daughters, and it gets a little heavy, then we can go out and skate, for example, go skateboarding for a little while, and then we take the tension away, and then we can come back, and then they easily transition into, okay, now I can do my homework, because there is that tension there. Who knows why? Maybe they were bullied at school, maybe they hate the teacher, maybe the teacher told them something. We really don't know what the situation is. But if we kind of take that idea and move it into something else that is going to make them happy and cheerful again, then they can transition very nicely into what they need to do. So I think that that's one of the things that we can do. And one of the ways that I think that we can do that is by focusing on creativity, which is what we're all about. We're talking about the creative process and how we can be creative. If we had the opportunity to sit there and focus on beautiful things like works of art, music, and symphonies, and beautiful movies and things like that, would we have the time to sit there and think, hey, I'm going to do this ugly thing, this other horrible thing, or go out and shoot somebody? Probably not. One good example that I can give you guys is Adolf Hitler. A lot of people don't know this, but Adolf Hitler used to be an artist. He was a creative guy. If they simply had allowed him to continue with his creativity, we may not have had World War II. Now, can I prove that? I can't prove it, but I can factually say that he had applied to art school twice, and twice he was not allowed in. And the individual that didn't allow him in happened to be of Jewish descent, which I think is interesting.
That is interesting.
There is an absolute correlation there. But, you know, if they had allowed him to focus on the beauty that he wanted to show us, maybe we would be talking about Adolf Hitler in respect to one of the greatest artists in history, as opposed to one of the greatest evilness in history.
That's so true.
Wow.
That could be like an origin story for a villain, right? Oh, it's because he just didn't get into art school. It's because he wasn't allowed to captivate his creativity, and it became inverted. So when you're so right, when we're not like in the flow of the harmonic creation of execution and embodiment and exploration, right? It starts to become like suppressed, and it starts to become inverted. And in that inversion, that's when we start to flip things, and it's darker. Now it's about revenge. Now it's about like all these crazy things that's not even how you wanted to begin with anyway, right? In terms of Hitler.
That most people have goodness in their heart. I don't believe that you were born being an evil entity. But then you somehow get into that horrible, negative evilness. And that's where we want to keep people away from.
Well, you know, it's just gets to that point, you know, you were talking about famous people that would, jump in and make comments and that kind of stuff. And, there's only so much the city of so-and-so wants to send our condolences to. There's only so many of those you can write.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then
Mhm.
it homogenizes and it dilutes the meaning of words. And that more than anything, that really, man, that blows a gasket with me about, okay, I don't want to hear, let's pray for them. I don't want to hear, this kind of stuff. I want to hear solutions. I want to at least well, I mean, not even can we get like an eighth of a solution just so we can know we're going in the right direction?
You want to see some action.
Something, because this just can't happen anymore. It can't happen.
Absolutely.
Like you said at the beginning, you got children. I have a son. He's 24 now, but when I'm my only child, and can you imagine me saying goodbye and then not having the reciprocal, like you said, of going to pick them up and asking them how their day was? They have swiped the soul from a lot of people in a lot of families. He has, and then once again, man, just the fact that like you said, the psyche takes over and you're not even that person when you're pulling the trigger, or are you?
I don't think you are. I think you are. When you take another life, you are no longer human. You're not what makes you human. When you take a life, when you disturb a person or a child, you invade them, you're no longer human, because the human could not even wouldn't even fathom going into those circumstances. You got a mind, you got a heart, you have emotions, you have energy, and something will click, no, absolutely not. Do you know what I mean?
That's not in our human nature.
No, it's what stops all of us from we all get heated, we all get mad, we all get passionate. I mean, look at what I just said about pedophiles. But am I going to go out and hunt them? Well, no, not right now, but maybe in the future. Do no, you're not going to act in that inhumane way, because guess what? You have a consciousness. You're like, no, nothing is going to upset me so much to the point that I'm going to take another person's life, or that I'm going to wreak havoc, upon an individual or a group. And also there's something, and this is, what we teach a lot at the portal, but there's something called karma that everyone, if we taught it correctly and in a creative way, we could understand it better. And the thing is, if we're dealing with something inside and it seems so painful in this moment, in this lifetime, if we go and retaliate to try to ease that pain or make it better, we are just asking to be involved in a karma that's going to be so great in this life and the next. And it's not going to reconcile anything. It's going to be more expansive of the pain for you to understand what it is that you did. Do you know?
Correct.
And it's going to show up in many different ways. It's not going to be an eye for an eye. It's not going to be like, oh, you killed somebody, so someone's going to kill your somebody. No, it's karma is so intelligent in the way that it will come into your life, bad karma and good karma. Let me emphasize that too. When you are a good, when you're a person in harmony and you're peaceful and you're just being humane and doing the best that you can in equilibrium, you're also going to receive good karma. So you're going to receive good things in your life coming to you, and the understanding and the blessings and the opportunities and all that stuff. But there really is, the sense of why metaphysics and creativity is so important to us. I'm sorry, that's my dog Aura barking at something back there. Aura, but it's why we want to investigate the works of the metaphysics and the soul. How can we understand what is behind our eyes? What is the spirit? What is the psyche? And what makes us go into these modes of rational and irrational states? And right now we're looking collectively at humanity as really tapping into their irrational states to the point that they're so susceptible to be taken over and take their have their humanity stripped from them.
Yeah,
so the antidote,
consciousness, and one of the things, sorry for interrupting you, one of the things that I feel that is a huge part of our consciousness is the whole concept of creativity. If we were more focused on seeing the beauty, being creative, thinking of positive things, then would we have time to get ourselves into that frame of mind? I don't believe that we would.
Exactly. Creativity is going to, again, for lack of a better word, is going to save humanity, is going to upgrade humanity, is going to get us out of what we are perceiving the inferno, is going to get us into the states of heaven and bliss and new earth and that equilibrium, because that is truly our divine state. That's our natural state, to be creative.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We are a part of the creator and we are the creation itself. So we are, working like double duty in the manifestation of the design that is unfolding in this reality process, right? Wouldn't you say, Miguel?
Yeah, I was just talking about how we as human beings have this kind of inherent concept of creativity within us. And we quite often don't use it. As a matter of fact, when we get to the age of, I think it's 25, 26, we lose about 90 to 95% of this idea of creativity within ourselves. When we're children, we're full of it. In the same way that these children that lost their lives, they were thinking about being creative. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pilot. I want to do this. I want to do that. And somebody who's already to a level where they're not really thinking straight comes and wipes that away. And I think it's extremely unfortunate that that happened. But we were saying that we can't keep just saying, we're sorry, we feel for these people, we got to pray for them. But what else can we do right now? What we can do is we can look at things like how to prevent these things from happening. And one way for me to prevent these things from happening is to divert the negativity into a positive way.
Yeah.
Okay,
and Miguel,
so let me ask this. So I want to ask this question on your point. How, you got to bring religion into this, right? Because people are praying for them and all that kind of stuff. But all religions say the only way to get to that nirvana, that heaven, is to forgive your enemies, to forgive those who have done wrong to you,
right?
To forgive. So my question would be, how do you forgive someone you hate?
Well, I think it's difficult because I'm in a situation literally as we speak where it's very hard for me to say I am not going to forget these things because I can't forget them. They've happened. But there is a way for me to say that I forgive them because I can tell myself that part of forgiveness has to do with my own forgiveness. Like, am I going to forgive myself for doing or not for thinking these things? And if I do, then I will live a happier life. And yeah, I've actually gone through those steps and processes in order to allow myself to forgive them in order for me to live a better life. And it has helped, believe it or not, just to even put myself in that mindset.
Yeah, and spiritual teachers, Siddhartha Buddha, the Persian poet Rumi, Osho would say, holding a grudge or not forgiving someone would be like you swallowing poison and thinking that it's going to destroy your enemy. And we know that that's not true, that ultimately holding on to things so harshly is going to destroy yourself. And it is also valid, like you say, Abel, how can I forgive someone who does something such, that's a monstrosity action? And so then I would go back and say, well, remember, forgiveness is not for them, it's for yourself.
Yes.
It's for yourself to be able to then go through the gateway of peace of what happened within the situation.
Absolutely.
And to move forward again, okay, it's a hard thing. How can we get through this, right? And also, in the religious aspect of like, not to offend anyone, but we also have to question those texts as to, who wanted us to forgive and for what, so easily? Like, that's another thing with the human experience is we also have to think about boundaries and how much we're going to respect ourselves as a being and how much boundaries we're going to draw as far as, what that forgiveness is if someone is going to do something bad towards us or, towards someone that we love. And to know that really it's not about forgiving them. Like they're eliminated out of the picture. They're beyond what we can help because they've already lost their soul, right? That's a whole other like subject. But for our own peace, we can start to piece the pieces together in order to start to get into harmonious resonance from your heart and your mind, because guess what? You are a walking vibrational entity. And if you walk around with all this disruptiveness and negativity, you're only adding that to the field, where the field needs harmony, healing, hope, peace, creative intelligence, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Right. We got about 9 minutes left. Okay.
Yeah, and kind of continuing on with what Mandy was talking about, it really is about cause and effect. One reaction will have an opposite reaction to it. So if I'm throwing negativity because of a situation that has happened towards somebody, guess who's going to get it back? I am.
You are.
So why do I, or why would I, or why would I want to put myself in that predicament? But it's very difficult for people to understand that concept. It was difficult for me. But once I kind of understood it, I knew, wow, okay, I got to change these things. And going back to creativity, I always go to creativity, but going back to creativity, it was a very big and heavy creative process for me to understand how to figure this out. And that's why something that Mandy said earlier, you know, creativity is the thing that's going to bring us out of all of this. And it absolutely is, because in reality, it was creativity that got me out of these situations. It was a different way of thinking, a different way of processing these things that allowed me to figure out how I was going to go about doing it. If I didn't allow myself to be open to these new and creative ideas, then I wouldn't have been able to get out of it.
Perfect. So let's wrap it up. And what I want to do again, I want to do round table, like short answers. And I want to go around Abel, Miguel, and then I'll do myself. And then at the end, I want to close up in a little bit of like, you know, a little prayer, right?
Okay.
So let's do Abel. What are you going to access in yourself to, you know, what are you going to do in this world? What is your purpose? What are you going to do to get more of what you want? Like you said, you don't want to be like just hearing words, you want action. So what are you going to do to contribute to the field?
Well, I'm going to use my platform to go ahead and start speaking again freely about what I feel should be out there. You know, I mean, I have to get in line with whatever I believe in, and that is against what I believe in. I don't want to fight it, but I do want to call it to the table about why is it the way it is? Why do you present it like that? And at least I'll hear that and know that if I can't change that content, at least I heard what it's about and I can deal with it if I have to.
Perfect. Yes. Abel, I'm sorry, Miguel, what are you going to do?
So one of the things that I will have a project that I'm currently working on is writing a book. I really am focusing on writing something that will help people. The general public absolutely needs to understand that through creativity and through understanding and through allowing yourself to flourish through creativity will help you move forward. And I feel that writing a book is going to allow people to do that, to read into, not just literally, but figuratively, into how to be able to become more creative.
Perfect. Absolutely. We will highly anticipate your book, Miguel. As for me, what am I going to do? I'm going to continue to expand the portal and to share my talents and to teach everyone about the mind, the body, the energy field, and the cosmic rules of the universe, and that you can create and design the life that you want, and you can add to the field your greatest talents and purpose. So thank you, Miguel and Abel. Let's close really quick with you know, just let's leave the energy and high light vibrations for the end of the show. And
we got like 5 minutes left, so we're good.
Okay, cool. So we got 5 minutes. So let's just kind of like let's close our eyes. Let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth, just to relax the space. And I just want to open up the universal field and activate the consciousness of God, Source, the grand designer of our reality, ourselves, our higher selves. Thank you, God, for giving us this time, this technology, these gifts, for giving us Abel, Miguel, myself, and anyone who's listening, for people who need to have peace in their hearts and their minds to understand what is happening in the reality that seems so confusing and so conflictive, to understand that when they access through their heart peace and forgiveness and creativity, they can access the highest information and joys and bliss and happiness, and together we can all piece together a greater picture for humanity to resolve itself, to heal itself, to evolve itself. And so these tragic, horrific incidents will be of the past and a faded memory. And we also give our love, our hope, and prayers to those who are suffering right now, and that their suffering may no longer take place, and that we can experience a collective reality where we are able to be comfortable in our being and access the highest and most beautiful potentials of our mind, access the embodiment and full potentials and openness and blossoming of our hearts, and that our understanding of our energy can help bring us into a world where we see a complete different existence of humanity coming together and allowing the universe to guide us in a more cohesive harmony and fusion. And so it is, and so it shall be, that our future, our near future, rest in the greatest, highest potential of magic, mysticism, love, and spirituality. And may everybody's wishes, dreams, thoughts, beliefs be honored all the days of their lives. And so it is. Amen. Everyone, thank you for being on Cosmic Native Conversations. Of course, you can always follow the Dialogue Internet Radio for this podcast and others. If you have questions or comments, you can send them to Abel on his Facebook. You can find Miguel at Miguel. Where can we find you?
You can go onto YouTube and look up Creative Thinkers. We got lots of really cool interviews of amazing people such as Mandy.
Thanks. Yes, check out that show. It's so much fun. It's on PBS. And you can find me on Instagram at The Portal CI and at Cosmic Native. So please join us and join our conversation. We hope you had a great time, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, and bye-bye, everybody.
This has been Cosmic Native
Remember,
Conversations with Mandy Shantyne Lopez.
You are in a
Thank
body,
you for listening.
but you are a soul. You are a spirit. You are an energy. You are a creative force moving through the universe. You are an infinite artist. Create yourself. Design your life. Awaken.